could go ahead and tiptoe through your life, digging in the dirt, you can stress on the strife, but I'm gonna fly past the worry and the pain today. I'm flying on faith, flying on faith. I'm flying on faith, faith. You could cry all night about the things that you hate, so dissatisfied in so many ways, but I'm gonna find a way to celebrate today. I'm flying on faith, flying on faith. I'm flying on faith, flying on faith. Picked up my baggage and I threw it out the door.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? I hope you had an amazing weekend and that you are back with your mindset and ready for the new week. Well, today there is so much to talk about. Our topic today at Pastor V on Wellness, if you remember, we do not approach wellness from one standpoint here where we believe that it is all about getting the body healthy, but we recognize that wellness is about our whole person, about our body, our mind, and our spirit. And so here we believe that as we transform our body, our mind, and our spirit together. It's not a separate entity, but we are a whole person. And you just saw it. My prayer here is that you be blessed and be whole, entire, nothing lacking, nothing missing. And we have to recognize also that wholeness for some looks very different than wholeness for others. It's about our quality of life. Good morning, Georgette. So good to see you here this morning. I know that you, my friend, understand wellness, that it is a complete package. And there are some times when portions, body, mind, or spirit is out of sync. And as a result, it affects every part of our well-being. But this morning, we are going to talk about something that's very, very close to my heart. And it took me a minute to come on this morning because I was a little apprehensive about what I was going to say. Good morning, Spring. So thankful that you are here online with us today. Welcome, welcome. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about autism and ADHD. We've heard so much in the news these last few days, weeks about it. But I do want to post my disclaimer before we go any further because I need to let people know something. I am not a physician or a certified nutritionist. This is not considered medical advice. You should see your physician before starting any exercise or diet program. And those of you who know me know that this is not all about diet and exercise, although both of those things play into our wellness, but we are complete, whole human beings. And there's so much more to us than just our physical well-being. And so today I want to talk a little bit about this very, very touchy subject now. Like I said, it's a personal thing for me because it's been, I think, about 5 years ago now that I was diagnosed with ADHD. And in that time, I have also come to find out that ADHD is considered being on the spectrum. It is considered being on that autism spectrum. And for me, it took me a minute to really allow myself to to absorb that. I've always known that my brain worked a little bit different than everybody else's, but I call it my superpower because the word of God in 139, Psalms 139:13 tells us, for you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. So for me, my brain that was on 100 when other people's brains may have just been on 50, for me, it's just been a way of life. It's just been a way of life. And so I recognized I was struggling when I went back to school. I'm back in school now, receiving my master's degree at North Park Theological Seminary in Chicago. I'll be headed out there. We go about 3 times a year in person. So I'm heading out in the 1st of June for an intensive. But I recognize, hey, I've got a lot going on and I cannot get my brain to focus in. And I want to be the best student I can be. I want to be the best pastor I can be. I want to be the best family member that I can be. And so I pursued a diagnosis just to make sure that I was doing all that I could do to be whole and be well. And, not to my surprise, to a confirmation, I would say, is that I was diagnosed with ADHD. And so my brain just works differently. But the scripture in Genesis 1:27, where it says that I was created in the image of God, must mean there is something within the makeup of God that this is okay. And guess what? When I began to pray and I was like, God, my brain, help me here. And he told me, he says, you think outside of the box. You see things differently than what a neurotypical person would see. And that is needed in my world. And so for me, it was just that solidification that God sees me, he knows me, and he loves me. And above all else, he created me. Guys, he created me in his image. And so I just want to take a minute. We're coming up on Autism Awareness Month in the month of May. And we also now have a Secretary of Health that is pretty much highlighting autism and ADHD, not in a positive way, but in a very negative way. And so that is really breaking my heart. And so we're going to dive into a real conversation today, as we always do, about the body, mind, and spirit. And I'm talking about this deeply personal situation for me, ADHD and autism, and being diagnosed with ADHD as an adult. It has just reshaped how I understand myself. And it also reshaped how I think about wellness and how I think about my walk with God as I look back. The church doesn't make room for people with disabilities. That's just the truth of the matter, guys. You may attend a ministry that is on point and they're doing things like having buddies for young people who have to navigate children's church without parents being there. Or you may have a special ministry with a sensory room for people with autism or ADHD. If you do, you are in a minority. So go and find your pastor and your leadership and tell them how amazing they are, because that is not the normal in the United States. But ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, isn't just about being hyper. It's about how our brain processes attention, how it focuses, how it deals with time and emotions, and even our memory is different. I used to get so upset with myself because I could memorize things for a test, but then the next day they would be gone. And I know a lot of people are like that, but no, mine was totally different. I had to learn to take tests by literally taking my notes. And these are some notes that I have here, my little scribble scrabble. And I would read my page of notes And in my head, the way my brain processes is I would have to remember where information was on the page. It was almost like I took a snapshot of the information in my mind. And so when I'm taking my exam, I literally would be seeing pages of information, not just remembering information, but I would see pages of information. And I would say, okay, we talked about this in the second section of the paragraph on page 198. And I could then get the information and utilize it for my exam. But then I would get so frustrated because I was like, man, now I don't remember the information that I needed. That was a mess. And then when I went to college to become a nurse, I recognized, okay, Valerie, this is information that you cannot afford to forget. And so I would have to devise things that helped me remember the body systems, that helped me remember my assessments and how I would formulate my assessment so that I could remember the information about my patients. And it was a whole deal. Now imagine doing that at my age now, back in seminary, no, babe, the brain it gets older in everybody, and it just wasn't doing all that. Okay. And so that's what helped me to pursue my diagnosis so that I could learn now at my age how to deal with ADHD, especially that time and memory piece. Autism is a spectrum disorder. It affects how people experience communication, relationship, and sensory information. Many adults, especially women and people of color, are diagnosed later in life because the symptoms can look like any other childhood stereotype for Black people and for women. They're daydreaming, they're not present, they're emotionally stunted. I'm just going to tell you, there's some ugly things that they say about women and Black people in this world. They're lazy. They don't want to do better. You can't make them learn. They're unteachable. All kinds of things, when the truth is they could have possibly had ADHD or very high functioning autism, which some people used to call Asperger's, but that I can't get into all of those changes and things now. But what I want people to know is that there are many adults in the United States, specifically women and people of color, who are undiagnosed with ADHD and autism, and they're really trying to figure out how to navigate life. And you start talking about things like wellness, and they're like, what does wellness even look like for me? They're in constant overwhelm. They have trouble starting and finishing tasks. There are emotional highs and lows, and no, it's not bipolar. And so they're trying to figure out what's going on with my brain. If there's too much noise or too much light or too much touch and feel, they are trying to understand how they are wired without a diagnosis. And now we have a Secretary of Health saying we're going to round them all up. And so who wants to get a diagnosis at this point? So if you've ever thought, why can't I get it together? You are not broken. Okay? If you've ever stopped and said, why does my brain not slow down enough so that I can learn this information? I feel useless. You are not broken. Your brain is simply wired differently. It's beautiful, it's purposeful, and it's wonderfully made, just like that scripture said. And we need to stop putting people in boxes, and we need to figure out how to work with them. This world is not made for people who think differently. But I want you to know, since I've been diagnosed, I recognize that I am not just someone who's disorganized. I have someone who has I'm someone who has ADHD, who has an executive problem. The executive functioning of my brain is different than someone who is neurotypical. And so I am not lazy. I am probably one of the hardest working people you've ever met. I am bad with time management? Somewhat, in the sense that my brain works differently and I'm releasing the shame. I'm not holding on to it. Neither am I afraid to talk about it. Some people are being pushed into obscurity because of this new administration, and I will not be. I will not be. I will be the voice for those who are afraid to say something. All I ask of you, those who know me and love me, and those who will meet me later, I don't ask for you to make things easy for me, as some people say. Oh, they want people to give them special treatment. What I want from you is I want you to give me grace and recognize that I am a person who loves people and loves God, and I'm trying to take care of this temple that his spirit lives in. I want you to work with me to find strategies so that we can work together. And I'm not asking you to do anything different for me than you should be doing for anyone that works with you, for you, or who is in partnership with you. We need to learn how to work together, because I'm sure that you've got some proclivities that probably drive me insane as well. How do we work together? First and foremost, recognizing that I am not broken, and anyone with autism and with ADHD, and I got to do this, they are not broken, guys. It's a party in our brain. It's a party going on. Join us and let's begin to advocate for those who have ADHD, for those who have autism. Thank God mine is not on that, that I'm not on the spectrum where the behaviors are not manageable. I pray for the parents who are having to deal with that right now in the midst of, as I said, a Secretary of Health saying that your child is broken and they need to be on a registry. Lord, forgive us. Forgive us as a country for our neglect of those who are different. Wow. It's also helped me to understand how faith and neurodiversity connect. God isn't surprised about how he made me. He's not surprised. He knew me. He made me. So he's not surprised. And wellness isn't pretending to be someone I'm not. And I spent years pretending to be someone I'm not. I did. I spent years doing that. I won't anymore. I am who I am, and you either love me, hate me, not sure about me, whatever it is, but you're going to do it on the terms of complete honesty about who I am. Yes, Georgette, Lord have mercy. We have lost our compassion, but I have to talk about this. If I'm going to talk about wellness, I've got to talk about those mental conditions that can make wellness an instability, not forever, but until we're willing to own up to them so that we can begin to walk in wellness. So anyway, I also recognize that wellness is living fully and joyfully into who I truly am. Guys, I love me. I am grateful for this brain that he gave me. It does work differently. And often I can read outside the box. I can color outside the lines. And it begins to become beautiful to those around me because they're like, man, I never considered that. I never thought of it that way. That's because God said we needed people who thought differently in this world. Imagine diversity, equity, and inclusion being something that we could embrace. And so for our mental health, I just want to say that there are higher rates of anxiety, depression, burnout, and self-compassion is needed. I have to have self-compassion. Just like I said, I accept me for who I am. But I also live at a place where anxiety is real. It is real. It is real, not just for myself, but I also tend to internalize the anxiety of people around me. because I believe that the ADHD brain actually is a brain that God created so that it could have sympathy, empathy, and compassion for others. And the only problem with that is that sometimes that empathy pulls the person in, and I hold on to their problem as if it were mine. So anxiety and depression are real issues. And so someone who has ADHD or autism, they need to be in therapy. I am in therapy because you want to make sure that you're not internalizing things that are not your own and trying to carry the weight of others, because if you do, you will burn out. And if you burn out, then you have nothing left to give you, those who love you, and that beautiful brain of yours. And I love to use that word beautiful because somebody else uses it very incorrectly. But that beautiful brain of yours is now something that the world doesn't get the benefit of. So we're gonna make sure, get in counseling. If you even suspect that you have ADHD, if you even suspect it, get in counseling, get in some type of coaching, some kind of coaching where you begin to talk about those executive functionings, being on time, getting organized, being productive with your times, the procrastination, all of those things that you begin to find strategies that won't always work, because I'm usually late coming here in the morning, not because I'm not up and ready, just because I let time get away from me. Time blindness, we'll talk about that later. We don't have time right now. But your physical health, a lot of times people with ADHD and autism have sleep problems, and I do. And mine tend to also go with the emotional thing. If there's a lot of emotional stress and tension going on, a lot of times my sleep struggles. I literally sometimes can lay down at 10 p.m. thinking, oh, I'm going to go to sleep. And it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning before my brain finally shuts down enough to go to sleep. And so something to help with that is proper nutrition and exercise. That is one of the reasons I am so big about exercise, is that getting that physical body into a place where it can calm down, release some of the anxiety so that I can get the rest that I need. And so those are some things that physical health can do to help people with ADHD and autism. Getting that physical activity in helps with those things such as sleep struggles. And then my spiritual health. Sometimes we struggle with traditional routines, those things like being on a reading plan, a 1-year reading plan. There have been times, a couple of times in my life, that I've actually made it through those reading plans, read the Bible in a year type thing. And I used to get so frustrated with myself because I felt like it was a lack of faith that was going on. I thought there was something wrong with my faith. That, Valerie, why can't you read this and stay on track with this? And I felt like it was me that was broken. But the more I learn about ADHD and the executive functioning, it's not a lack of faith. It is now, how do I, in a healthy way, serve the Lord? It looks different for me than it may look for one of my best friends in the world, Penny Allison, who is neurotypical, and she is very ordered and structured. And this woman probably reads through the Bible every year. She is on a prayer schedule. She is meticulous about her spiritual health. But I had a conversation with her this weekend. She's planning a retreat, and she says, I need you to be a part of it because you bring something to it that I don't. Come on, guys. So I may not be that structured person that does things 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I love the Lord. And I get in his presence, and he gets in my face, and we have the best time together. And so I may not be on this, like I said, structured plan, but I talk to him every day. And in fact, I learned so much about the scripture where it says to pray without ceasing, because 9 times out of 10, if I'm standing there talking to you, me and God, we talking too. I'm telling him, Lord, bless this person that's standing before me. Lord, be with them. Give them everything they have need of. Lord, I ask you to watch over their family. I'm praying for you as we're standing there. And most neurotypical people cannot do that. They can't do more than one thing at a time. And so I am finding spiritual practices that honor my energy and my rhythms. And I have to do things, and I'm going to put this in the chat later. Set alarms and visual cues for my daily routines, breaking tasks down into smaller pieces and getting those pieces done. Embracing my body doubling. That means working outside alongside someone else, even virtually. That's that coaching piece. Someone who has my schedule too, and they're walking along with me. And then creating some sensory sanctuaries, a place where I can just go and reset. If you are on the spectrum, you must have those places for yourself where you go and reset, where maybe the lighting is low, or maybe the sounds are low, or maybe you've weighted blankets. I have a weighted blanket and it is amazing. I also now have an electric blanket that I'm not really cold, but that heat coming from that electric blanket is like it soothes me. It soothes me. And so what I'm trying to say is that there are some practical things that we can do if you're on the spectrum, or you know someone that is high functioning on the spectrum. You need to give them that grace that I asked for. The brain is an amazing place. You are absolutely right, Spring. And so let's begin to recognize that first and foremost, if you're on the spectrum, you are not a mistake. You are not broken. You are a person made in the image of God. And I took longer today to talk about this because it is definitely near and dear to my heart. And wellness cannot be complete when you're feeling as though you are some mistake and you are broken. You are not broken. Your brain, with all of its beauty and complexity, it can be a gift to this world because you see things differently than the neurotypical person. You can color outside the line without feeling as though it's wrong, which means then you can begin to find solutions that are outside the box. Your brain is beautiful. And wellness doesn't mean forcing yourself to be neurotypical, because you never will be. I am now in my 50s recognizing I am different and will never be like my beautiful neurotypical friends out there. And wellness means embracing your unique strengths and finding a rhythm that brings you peace and allows for your creativity, and you find your unique way of connecting with God. You are wonderfully made, and your wellness journey may look different. And that's not just okay, it's holy. It's not just okay that you're different, it's holy, because you are made in his image. And thank you for joining me today, guys, on Pastor V on Wellness. And I'll see you next time. And just remember that your uniqueness is not a curse. You are not broken. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And there are some things that you can do to help that ADHD brain or that high functioning autistic brain find its place in the world. Go get you a therapist. And you remember, the first one may not be the right one. You may have to shop and find a good therapist that understands ADHD and autism. Get you a coach, someone who can help body double for you. Maybe keep your schedule or call you, and you can get some accountability in place. Don't be afraid to do those things. And then find a rhythm and a routine that works for you. And then begin to let the people in your life who love you and that you love, let them know what's going on. Don't be afraid to. Don't be afraid to do that. Remember, here at Pastor V on Wellness, we make small steps that make big change. And as we do, we will see our body, our mind, and our spirit transformed to make us a whole person who is fully aware and alive. And I call him my friend, never knew him, and he's long gone on to glory. But Howard Thurman used to say, don't try to find a problem with the world, the business, and I'm pretty sure Howard Thurman was ADHD or maybe high functioning autistic. But he said something that just really resonated with me, because we're always saying, find the problem in the world and go solve it. Howard Thurman said, find something that brings you life, that makes every part of you come alive, and do that, because what the world really needs is people who come alive. And I guarantee you that for someone who is on the spectrum, who has ADHD or high functioning autism, I promise you, when they find something that makes them come alive, it is something that is going to make the world a better place. So my prayer for you today is that you be blessed and be whole. I took a whole lot more time than I intended today, but I love you guys. Take care. And if you have someone in your life who is ADHD or high functioning autism, go give them a hug today. Be blessed and be.
You could go ahead and tip